Morning, everyone. Please welcome to the stage Marcus Pope, president of Youth Price. Excuse me.
All right. Thank you. It's so nice to be here this morning and see so many familiar faces in the flesh. We're clearly excited about the work around Children's Savings Account, which we're expanding statewide. Lots of credit needs to go to my folks from the city of St. Paul for really leading the charge around Children's Savings Accounts in St. Paul. We couldn't have done this if it wasn't for their leadership and technical support. Good to see you, Mayor and Ikram. Please give them a round of applause really quick. And I see Melvin's pointing at Ikram, where there clearly a lot of credit needs to go to Ikram as well. So thank you for all your work. I get the honor and privilege of introducing the mayor of St. Paul, my mayor actually, and someone who I've known almost ever since I've known myself, way back at the Hallie Q. Brown Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. So I am from St. Paul. So you got myself and our mayor from St. Paul in Brooklyn Park today. And that's a big deal for folks who grew up in St. Paul. And it's always a little scary when you get to introduce someone who have known over 3 decades. So the first thing I would say is that as someone who kind of had the opportunity to engage with him over years, there's a few things you need to know. If you grew up with him, you're not surprised that he's mayor today. By no means. He's someone, we went to high school, we went to St. Paul Central High School, and I think he's a little older than I am. And he was someone who could get along and build connections with anyone, from the students going to Ivy League schools to those who were maybe in the streets doing things that we probably don't want them to do. He made connections with everyone, and he built racial relationships and was able to garner respect from a very diverse kind of community of individuals. And that's something I've always admired about him. And I think he's done a good job of connecting across difference as mayor. So that's one thing I think you should know about him. I think the second thing you should know about the mayor of St. Paul is that he has deep connections within St. Paul, and he also loves St. Paul dearly. If you may debate on policy, but his love for St. Paul and his commitment to making St. Paul the best city in the world can't be questioned. And it's really kind of ironic that he's been so supportive of us expanding this all across the state, given that he's so focused on St. Paul. But ever since we embarked on this journey, they have been right with us to support the statewide expansion of Children's Savings Account. So we really appreciate that. I think the third thing I'd like to say about the mayor before I let him come up, because I know he needs a lot of time, is that, when you hear him talk, he always say, when people come up to him and talk about the one thing that's going to make the city great, he'll always tell you that there's not one thing that is the silver bullet. And although I agree with him, I do believe that there may be one thing. And he may want to, acknowledge that today, but we'll see. But I don't trust him when he says there's not one thing, because when I look at what he's accomplished in St. Paul and how he's invested in children and young people, I really believe his children and young people is his one thing. When you look at what he's done. And so with that, come on up, Mayor Carter. His class actually, and he doesn't have time to talk about this because I know he has talking points and he has to go, but I come from the strongest class, the greatest class to come out of St. Paul Central.
Good morning. I see just Marcus woke up early and chose violence this morning. He told you that I talk a lot. He told you that I'm older than him. He told you a lot of things. He just lied on his whole class. My class of graduates at Central, look, that's the most important thing. We can get one thing straight this morning. We're going to talk about these classes. I kid. Good morning. I'm Melvin Carter. I'm the mayor of the city of St. Paul, and I'm really excited because I have to tell you, I have been excited for this conversation for so long. I'm always texting or calling Ikram and asking her about the mini kids, what the sites are doing and what's going on then kind of in the other spaces around the state. I end up getting briefed more on kind of how the work in St. Small is going, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. And then Ikram can correct me later. Is this I don't like the lyrics there? And then just let me know when you guys are ready. And then Ikram can correct me later. But it's exciting to see this producer is like that scene in the monster movie when the scientist is working to try to do it in the Earth all night, and then gets up in the morning and says it's alive, right? That's what this feels like to me. Like you being able to implement these plans around the state are so incredible. But Marcus, even the great Marcus Pope couldn't get ahead while spending 10 and 20% of his income just on the privilege of having banking services. And so through college savings accounts, we're putting dollars in the bank for our young folks for the future, but we're also connecting families to financial institutions that aren't charging 300, 400% interest. We're helping facilitate savings because if you can save for college, you can save for retirement, you can save for a home, you can save for a vacation, you can save for all of your goals. Research shows us through our 9-to-1, we have a social return on impact, social return on investment study that says there's a 9-to-1 return to our community on the investment. For every dollar that we put into this, we get $9 back in community in social benefits. And those social benefits are in the form of the families right now having higher social and emotional wellness, right now being able to save better, right now having lower stresses, right now having all of those things. So I'm excited about the work that we're doing in St. Paul. We're over, Ikram will tell you all the stats. I'm trying to remember the exact stats that Ikram, because they change every day. It was, $1 million in savings, and I was bragging on that. And one day the Crown said, "No, it's $2 million now." Okay, it's $2 million in savings, and I was bragging on that. And somebody, okay, no, it's $3 million now. So we got over $3 million in college savings set aside for St. Paul children. We're excited. Right now, we're going through this incredible transition to where, this has all been about talking to parents, but now all of a sudden we have 4-year-olds about to turn 5, and we can start talking to them. They can start bringing their piggy banks. We just did that for the first time, last week, where we had a group of, 4-year-olds bring their piggy banks into the bank and open them up to deposit them in their own college savings accounts. And let me tell you, there's very little that's more exciting and more fun than seeing young folks come and bring their pennies, their quarters, their dimes to invest in their own future. Sure. So thank you for being a part of this mission. Thank you for all of you in all of the sites around the state. I would love to visit. Like I said, there's nothing I love more. I have a 4-year-old, so when I'm at the playground talking to parents and I go, is that a college-bound baby over there? It's not weird because I'm a parent as well of a college-bound baby. And you will see as you go down this path toward implementation. One, just how easy it is to bring people on board this vision, and 2, just how rewarding it is to see how families and children offer a dividend to us every time we invest in them. Thank you for your time. I think I'm supposed to take questions, but I might have used all my time already. Marcus? Any questions? Thoughts, rude remarks, comments, corrections, background? Oh, let me say this. The St. Paul Office of Financial Empowerment team, would you guys raise your hand? Could y'all clap for them like they just won the Super Bowl? Seriously, stand up. Seriously, the one thing I corrected Marcus said is, Marcus said Ikram deserves some of the credit, which is not accurate. Ikram deserves literally every single ounce of credit for this moving forward. There has not been a day of college savings accounts, either in concept or in reality, that Ikram was not at the steering wheel where this is concerned. So we appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your guidance. And that goes to all of the members of the Office of Financial Empowerment team. I apologize. There's a question. You know what? The truth is, I wish I could say that I was like, this was a concept that I had from when I was working at the state, and we tried to get state funding to do something like this, but we weren't able to in the legislature. And it was something I actually never really talked about. Um, it was something I never really talked about when I was campaigning for mayor. I mentioned it in my, Carmen, you worked on the campaign. Did you ever even hear me say it during the campaign? Not once. But it was something that was in the back of our mind. I ended up mentioning it during my inaugural address in 2018. And the whole place just erupted. The moment it came out of my mouth, the whole place just erupted, and it shocked me. And actually, before that, as we were building the inaugural address, both my wife and one of our kind of advisors who is from the business community, was they kept bringing me back to it. They both kept saying, like, independently, hey, what about that? What about the college thing? And eventually, like, oh, okay, well, if both of you agree on this, like, you have completely different background. If both of you agree that this is this is a thing, we'll put it in the speech. And so it shocked me the immediate reaction it got from community when I mentioned it. If I'm being honest, by the time I took my seat, we had Bremer Bank is our fiscal partner on it. Literally, by the time I finished the speech, I had a text message. I sat down and I looked, and one of our partners at Bremer Bank said, like, whatever that is, we're in. And it was shocking to me the way, I mean, and one of the reasons I never talked about it on the campaign trail, because it felt too convoluted or complicated. How do we explain this whole thing? And I learned that I don't have to explain it at all. Like, people get it, right? And from the owner of the Minnesota Wild to just about everybody in philanthropy in the state, to corporate leaders, to kindergarten teachers, people just are excited about this vision. And I say all of that just to say that I wouldn't have known how powerful this is had my community not conveyed to me, like, this, right? And folks did that really well. You were laying the groundwork to make it easy for your mayors to not just have to, like, think it up from scratch. Our team, we try to be open book. We've done a lot of the thinking. I get to say in a speech, we're going to create, but every child born in St. Paul, $50 in the college savings account. And then, like, 54 people have to spend a year determining, like, what born in St. Paul means. I mean, but for example, if the child's born somewhere else, but is adopted into a St. Paul family. My child was born in St. Louis Park, but we were residents of St. Paul. Does that mean born in St. Paul? Like, those types of questions. We ended up deciding it all means born in St. Paul, essentially, because, like I said, it's about access for us. But you're making it easy for your mayor. You're building a playbook for your mayor. Hopefully, you're having a direct conversation with your mayor. And I know all of your mayors, so I'm happy to help participate in that conversation as well. And that's something, I told the Crom already, I'd love you to do site visits anywhere who's in this state that's interested in doing that. I'd love to do site visits, and I'd be happy to engage your mayors and mayor. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a good question. Yes and no. At some point, to make a big impact somewhere, you got to draw a line and say, like, this is where we want to make a big impact. And so we have like sort of pretty seriously stuck to this cohort that we're building. That said, as our children enter kindergarten, for example, we have the possibility of having children who are born in St. Paul in class next to children who are not born in St. Paul. The goal is to build a college-going culture. And so one of the things that we've decided as we go into college bound for elementary is that all of those kids in the kindergarten class are eligible for college-bound St. Paul. So we're expanding the number of children to include all of those children who are entering kindergarten together, which is something that'll be important for us to essentially make this a culture and not sort of just a cherry pick of some of the kids in the class. That said, I mean, I suppose we could consider, like, what it would look like to provide families the opportunity to say, I want to do a college savings account. In that scenario, it'd probably be better for them, those families who are individually doing it,
if they have that social security number and the ability to do like that kind of investment type of thing. But it probably would be appropriate for us to consider for families who don't have that possibility, the opportunity to opt into it's not something we spend a lot of time on yet. Yes. Somebody else said yes.
I appreciate you saying. Well, that warmed my heart that you say that. I appreciate that.
And one of the bodies of work that I didn't talk about was our guaranteed income work. I serve as one of the national co-chairs of this organization called Mayors for Guaranteed Income. A Crom's team I end up bragging on quite a bit. Have worked to facilitate. I think we just finished our 4th guaranteed income pilot. That 4th one offered $500 a month of no strings attached funding to a cohort of families for a period of 2 years to help just pay the rent and do all of those things. And one of the things that we're learning, and this is part of an aha for me, is the extent to which we've all been lied to about what poverty is. And for me, that's probably why the war on poverty. I don't know anybody who would suggest we're winning the war on poverty. And somebody told us along the way that poor people are poor because they don't work. Because and let me be more specific. People who earn their money through dividends and interest told us that people who never see a penny without punching on clock are lazy. They told us that single moms who feed 4 children and pay the rent on minimum wage don't know how to manage their money. These dumb lies. They're obvious. They're not even good lies. But we've built a generation of poverty work on the foundations of these ridiculous lies. And so that's what we're trying to do. Is we're just trying to demonstrate that poverty is not an act of God. That poverty is the direct result of public policy decisions that we've made and frankly keep on making. And that to me, and let me tell you, look at Twitter. Twitter is full of people. Every time we do a program like this, every time we do guaranteed income, every time we say we're going to help new Americans in our community afford the cost of the citizenship process, every time we do anything, people on the internet go, and to be clear, I do have a theory that if people benefit directly from the policies that we but that's what democracy is supposed to be. Like, we're so unused to people benefiting from government services that we actually think it's inappropriate for people to benefit from government services. Anyways, I got on a grant, but I appreciate what you just said. Oh, we're excited about what we're doing. One more question, I'll get out of your way. I know you guys have work to do. Got it. You did our guaranteed income pilots with ARPA funds. We are doing a combination. The staffing for college savings accounts, we're providing with city funding. All of the seed deposits, all of the bonus structure is philanthropic dollar. Well, I guess early on we got state funding to help kick it off. We've been very, very actively raising money. We're I think $22 million now into a $35 million fundraising goal with a very large fundraising committee to help us essentially endow this. My goal, I tell for everybody who doesn't want me to be the mayor anymore, that the quickest way to get you to move over is to donate to college savings accounts. Because you better believe I'm not going nowhere until we can say that we've got this funded in perpetuity. And there's all kinds of opportunities, right? There's opportunities, sponsor a classroom or sponsor this neighborhood or sponsor these bonuses or whatever it is. And like I said, people have responded very, like one of the most delightful surprises of this is the way people have responded. Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I lied. Potentially, I don't know that alone is enough to reverse some of those trends. But I do think that that's an important piece. And like I said, it's been really incredible the way families have responded to our. I keep saying that one of the most exciting things about this is this. One of the most exciting things about this is the way families respond and that the way it energizes families. Our first day of college savings accounts was January 1st, 2020. And on that morning, we got up on New Year's morning and went to the hospitals to provide, college-bound baby onesies to the first kind of babies born in the city under college savings accounts. And there were 2 babies that had been born, and we went in and, provided the onesie to one of the families and went in and provided the onesie to the other family. They were excited. We were there. They were taking pictures and stuff like that. And I think while we were in the hospital, there was another baby that was born. And they said, well, this baby was born just 40 minutes ago. We can go in there. I said, no. Nope. You're not setting me up like that. Like I've been in the room 40 minutes after a baby was born, and I'm not gonna be that guy walking in there. And they said, no, they know you're here, and they'd really like for you to come in, and they want to see me, And we walked in this hospital room literally 40 minutes after a child was born, and this family was so delighted to feel like in this moment of life, they weren't alone. And, I watch Shark Tank, and they always ask the question about proof of concept. And I've never experienced a proof of concept more powerful than that moment. We've proven the concept. You all are scaling the accounts. And here's what I'm going to say, guys. All the stuff I just bragged about, the things that they all had in common, the body of what they were doing in St. Paul, the things that every single thing I just bragged to you about our work in St. Paul have in common, is like there was a point in time that I thought I thought we can't really do this. We can't really pull this off. And the most precarious moment for all of those things wasn't when somebody attacked the work, or wasn't when somebody kind of opposed the work, or wasn't when somebody wrote a letter to the editor about the work we're trying to do. It was the moment that I had to decide whether this was a possible undertaking for our city or not. You have that same choice. You have that same decision. You get to decide whether college savings accounts are a pie in the sky, impossible dream for Northfield, or something that we're not going to quit until our children have the opportunity to benefit from. You get to push each other, to encourage each other, to pull each other, to draw encouragement from one another as you make that decision. And we all have a whole community. We all have a whole state full of children, full of expecting parents, and full of children we don't even know of yet, who are hoping and counting on us to make the right decisions and do the work that they can benefit from when they arrive. Thank you for your work. It's sacred. I love y'all. We're your partners, and I appreciate you being here.
Let's give another big hand to Mayor Carter. Thank you so much, Mayor Carter, for being with us today. Hello, everyone. My name is Melody Johnson. I am a project manager for Career and College Ground Hennepin and also Youth Prize Mini Kids. And I'm going to be walking you through just some CSAs 101. It's a little hard to follow the inspiration of the mayor, but I would just like to provide information and level set on the work that we have been doing thus far. So as I said, I am a community engagement consultant. I work all over the state of Minnesota, and I've been just delighted to be a part of this project and get to know so many of you in this room. Yeah, so as the mayor talked about, children's savings accounts, they are accounts that are often built either at birth or at kindergarten that are a way to build long-term assets for families, for all families, whether in a city, a county, a region, or a state. And they can grow over the lifetime as the child grows, as the family grows with them. Another really important component of children's savings accounts is providing incentives. The mayor talked about when families go and get their well child check or when they go to their early childhood screening, to have those additional deposits into their account, building toward their future is really powerful. So a little information about CSAs by the numbers in the United States. You can see there through the resource Prosperity Now, which is the national think tank on wealth building for families and especially children's savings accounts. That there were only a few 100,000 until 2021 when California passed Cal Kids and the number jumped radically higher. And so now there are nearly 6 million children's savings accounts throughout the U.S. across 121 active programs across 39. So these are some of the prominent examples of CSA programs in the U.S. The main Next Gen program has existed since, I believe, 2004, 2005. Oakland Brilliant Baby, San Francisco Kindergarten to College. So I welcome you to go and look at Prosperity Now and see all the different examples that exist across the U.S. right now that we could follow and bring to Minnesota. So as I said, one of the big examples is Child Kids. It was passed in recent years. Their model is that they have an automatic enrollment at birth for every baby in California. Imagine how many babies that is affecting every year. There is a possibility of $25 deposited for every baby and $100 for low-income families. And then also the different wealth building and poverty reduction deposits that they have for families that have free and reduced price lunch, those that are in the foster system, and then the kids that have experienced homelessness. Next slide. The longest existing example is Next Gen. They have an automatic enrollment in a 529, their state 529 at birth, and an amazing private donor, the Alfond Foundation, grants $500 to every baby born in Maine at birth. Following that initial opening the account with $500, families can take steps for saving that they can get an initial matching grant. If they set up automatic deposit, they can get another grant. And they can also get a 30% savings match if they save up to $300 per year. So really powerful ways to encourage families to save and build those behaviors for the future. Next slide. And then also in San Francisco, kindergarten to college. Last year, 2023, the first kindergartners in the K2C program graduated from high school and went on to enter college. So you can see on the top photo, those are 4 of the graduates from the K2C program that have gone on to pursue their dreams for their future, whether it be going to school for human services or archaeology, I believe one of them. And there's been some really powerful data that has come out of the K2C program that has really seen the gaps in high school graduation, college enrollment close less by 30%. And so also just the ways that these are harder described, like coming around family, especially at birth, the pre-K level, that's what kindergarten to college does, starting in pre-K and in kindergarten, having kids already think about what do I want to be someday, even dressing up in graduation caps and gowns and getting their certificate for their savings. Next slide. Then there are innovative ways through these accounts to engage families, kids, youth in future thinking, whether using incentives or bonuses, like going to their first year checkup. Some programs use financial literacy class for parents. When they complete the class, they get another deposit in the account. Something we've heard from a lot of our engagement throughout the community is having kids in middle school already start thinking about college, doing college essay, things like that. And even in our focus groups, I can't count the number of times people my age mentioned reading to get free pizza from Pizza Hut back in the 90s. Does anyone remember that? I know, the Book It program. And so talking to people about, hey, if you are doing reading with your kids or kids read a certain amount of books, that they could earn an extra deposit in their savings accounts. But also around the savings accounts, there are other behaviors like college visits, teaching kids financial literacy, having college counselors. That's something amazing that Ikram and the team are doing. Bringing in college counselors right now for pre-K students and their families to really start that thinking, that planning. There's a story from an Indiana Promise program where they took kindergartners on a college visit, and the kids, while they were going around the campus, the college student giving them the tour, got a question from a kindergartner. Well, what time is your bedtime here at college? And the college student said, well, of course we don't have a bedtime. So the kid was like, I'm going to college. Whatever gets the child thinking about college. And then there are also innovative ways to encourage savings built around these accounts, whether it's matching savings for families, having incentives or bonuses for behaviors or milestones in the kid's life. Even just talking to kids about saving for college. In the K2C program, they encourage families to just take a coffee can and cut a hole in the top and put around it, like, my child's college fund, and put it on top of the fridge, just so that the kid can see that you're putting cash in and to their future. And we've been talking to youth throughout the community, talking about how they could earn money and then get a match into their college savings account, potentially through programs like Step Up, Right Track. Next slide. Right. So where could we be in Minnesota? Just painting a picture of what children's savings accounts could achieve. With $500 or less, kids are 3 times more likely to enroll and 4 times more likely to graduate from college. We could be closing education gaps. The new research coming out of kindergarten to college has shown that it is closing enrollment gaps in college by 30% for underrepresented students, which is incredibly powerful. Here in Minnesota, we have some of the largest education disparity in the country. And also potential for improved health outcomes. There's research out of the Oklahoma Seed program that has shown that CSA owners reported better health than those without CSAs. And kids who received a seed account at birth tend to have the higher social emotional skills at age 4 than kids without CSA. So really powerful example of investing in. Also just providing that early exposure to thinking about the future, thinking about college, like they're doing already in College Bound St. Paul. And so just a little overview of this project that we've been engaging in for the last year or more. In early 2023, the Mini Kids Act was proposed at the legislature, really thinking of taking the model of College Bound St. Paul and making it statewide. It did not pass in the 2023 session, but Youth Prize, many thanks to Marcus and Aaron, and unfortunately Christy Snyder was able to be in the room. A huge proponent of that is Aaron in the room. I just want to recognize Aaron for all her work. She has left. And so Youth Prize advocated for $500,000 in planning grants for the state. And in early 2024, the planning grants were awarded to Hennepin County, Rice County Healthy Communities Initiative, and the United Way of Central Minnesota. And so throughout spring into now almost winter, 2024, these sites have been doing an enormous amount of engagement, planning, and design with their communities. And everything that we have been hearing, gathering feedback from community, we will be reporting back to the legislature in early 2025, really hoping to have the Mini Kids Act reintroduced again. We potentially have someone in the room that may reintroduce. Could I just recognize you, Representative? Would you raise your hand? Representative Parley here. Could we give her a hand? She might be introducing the legislation. So grateful that you are in the room today. So I would just like to pass the mic now to the moderator of our panel, Steve Walvig from the United Way of Greater Twin Cities.
So good morning, everybody. As our panelists come up, I just want to say thank you so much for being here today, being part of this important conversation. My name is Stephen Walvig. I'm the Community Impact Program Officer with the Greater Twin Cities United Way. Greater Twin Cities United Way is the fiscal host for the work happening here in Hennepin County. I'm very excited to be part of that work, and it's been a privilege to watch all of these amazing panelists and everybody who's been a part of Mini Kids, really centering our community, centering young people, really thinking about what's possible, not what's easy. And we wanted to take some time today to hear from them about some of the work that they've been doing, some of the surprises they've had, and really think about how can we make this possible for every young person in Minnesota. So thank you again for being here. What we're going to do next is have our panelists introduce themselves. So we have mics here on the tables. If we can go to the next slide, we can see the names of all of our amazing panelists. And what I would love for each of our panelists to do, and Melody, we're going to start with you, is just introduce yourselves and how you got engaged in the Mini Kits Design Grants. So first, Melody, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. So again, hi, my name is Melody Johnson. I am a community engagement consultant, and I've been working on a number of projects all across the state, but I was really excited to join in the spring in the Career and College Bound Hennepin project with a collective of agencies, one of whom Rachel was the leader. So I've just had an amazing chance to talk to families, to community partners, to a lot of youth all over Hennepin County for the last 9 months. I'm excited to share a little bit of what I've heard. But
hi, good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. I'm Rachel Harris. I lead the Northwest Family Resource Collaborative, and our focus is to remove barriers to health and human services that promote family stability. We do this by identifying needs and building partnerships. So naturally, I could not pass up an opportunity to join with Thaddeus and others in pursuing the Child Savings Account initiative. That's it. Thank you.
We got engaged. So, well, welcome everybody. My name is Amy Trombley. I serve as Vice President of Education at United Way of Central Minnesota, and had gotten introduced to this work really back in 2020. Munir Carter-Ramos, if you know Munir at all, he's a name that folks know from across the state and helped start the program in St. Paul as well, had reached out to us. We are part of the Education Partnerships Coalition, and Munir had been part of the Education Partnerships Coalition, EPC, and wanted to have partners from across the state to support this type of legislation to help all kids have access to this kind of an amazing program. And so we were one of the partners that in 2020 started to engage our community in just the information gathering and the education of what could be possible for our state. And then we signed on to the legislation again in 2023 to have this opportunity to then have a grant that then we got to further engage and apply to bring this work to our community in the end. So that's how I've been involved in the journey.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alexis Lutkin. I'm also with United Way of Central Minnesota. I'm the Director of Financial Security. Hard to follow Amy because she says all the things, and so I should extend there instead. But just our work in United Way, having those relationships built in with the business community has been really helpful for us and exciting to see how excited they really are for this work as well.
And my name is Kelsey Duffy. I work with Healthy Community Initiative in Rice County, and we are a backbone agency, and so we support cross-sector community partners in aligning their educational strategy, policy, resources, and efforts. I focus especially on early childhood, and so this fits really well into my work, everything preschool, everything before kindergarten entry. And Rice County really has a lot of really strong local infrastructure, and so exploring child savings accounts, what that might look like, got connected to Mini Kids and to explore, what would this look like in Faribault, what would this look like in Northfield, what would it look like across our entire community.
Well, thank you all. So with United Way, one of the things that we're trying to do is disrupt inequity so that all people can succeed and thrive, regardless of their race, place, or income. And we believe that we are all change makers, and it really takes all of us to solve the problems that no one of us can solve alone. So I'm just thrilled to be here on stage with these amazing panelists. Would love to know about the communities that you're working with. Could you tell us a little bit about who you've been engaging with over the next 9 months to really understand what the needs and opportunities are around children's savings accounts?
All right. So for the last 9 months, we've been working with the Greater Twin Cities United Way, Minneapolis Public Schools, Family Resource Center, and me as Northwest Family Resource Collaborative representative. We built the project out and brought on Melody, the amazing project manager, community engagement specialist, back in April. Together, we reached out to our network, various community agencies from around Hennepin County. And for the folks who are in the room who are our partners, I'll give you a moment to identify yourselves here. We've got Community Action of Hennepin County, Cornerstone, Minneapolis Youth Coordinating Board, Top Line Credit Union, and more. So for those of you who are in the room today, please stand down or raise your knees. I want to acknowledge you. Thank you to each of you for holding focus groups and bringing partners to the table to expand the conversation.
All right. Yes. So with these partners here, we built our design team back in April and really just stood up the initiative, figured out a name, a website, who we were going to reach out to. Since about July, we've been going out and just being in the community. I've been tabling at events. Rachel was tabling at like food shelves. We did focus groups in the community surveys, giving tons of surveys out wherever we could. I do want to also recognize one of the amazing consultants that came on to do outreach, Renee Williams from Equitable Access Consulting. Please give her a hand. And I forgot to recognize Kira Rankine back there too from the Grace Foundation, who's been on our design team. So since July, we have heard from over 2,000 people from throughout Hennepin County, both on the ground, through surveys, through Zoom calls, and just heard really incredible things, a lot of ideas and enthusiasm. So as I spoke about earlier, United Way, sitting in that unique position where we have the relationships already established with financial institutions, our school districts, our business community. We've been able to tap into those relationships and really get people energized and excited and around the table. So we have representation from our local healthcare system. We have multiple financial institutions actually that are sitting at the table, and it's almost a little bit competitive because they want to know who we are choosing or being would be chosen to be that fiscal host for these funds and how they can get involved, how they can be a part of it. And so it doesn't matter what meeting we have, there's always someone from some sort of bank or financial institution that is there, and that's really exciting to us. We also have been able to have just great relationships with our legislators that are at the table as well. Like I said, school districts, we have people that are just excited to be a part of this work and excited to bring it to their neighborhoods, to their communities, and start this program for the kiddos in our community.
So as I was saying before, Healthy Community Initiative plays a really unique role in our community, supporting or providing community partners. We actually have like 30 different programs that we're providing support for. So that really around how we went about creating our design team and also how we went about collecting feedback. On our design team, we had our early learning navigator team, home visitors, family engagement navigators, Northfield Public Schools, Faribault Public Schools, community education, and also our community action center. And then we did a lot of outreach into the community, really leveraging these existing engagement strategies and feedback mechanisms. We were able to plug into conferences, back to school kickoff events, summers in the park, parent feedback sessions for individual programs. We were also able to plug into college tours, college readiness programs. And so we were able to talk directly with students and with parents. And this really serves as a nice warm-up program feedback, as well as providing feedback directly to the Mini Kids project. And so leadership then at those different programs, they were learning what their students were thinking, what their families were thinking, and how to support them in college and career planning and readiness, while we were also learning how to structure this Mini Kid.
Thank you so much. I just to love and so compliments you all on the amount of community outreach you've done, how you're really centering the voices of families, the voices of children in the work that you're doing, and just how broad across all the different communities that you're serving, that are really reaching out to make sure that this is an opportunity that's accessible to everybody. And we're really thinking about how do you make sure that it is accessible to just every person across our community, not just those who maybe traditionally been able to access those types of opportunities. I would love to know what maybe was most surprising about the conversations you had, maybe the barriers or the opportunities or other aspects of this work. Roddy, would you like to start?
Sure. I think something I was most surprised by was just the energy and the imagination that families had as they started just thinking about the possibilities with these children's students accounts. we did in our community survey that we got over 800 responses. 94% of respondents said that they would be interested in and they'd be likely to participate in a children's savings account program. So, oh no, our representatives left, but please bring that to the Capitol. Sorry. That it's something that people are really excited about. And it's just kind of that sense of relief that like my community would be providing this for me. Like Thaddeus, I wish Thaddeus was here so I could recognize him. Thaddeus and I have been joking that we do this work around children's savings accounts, but neither of us have children's savings accounts for our teenage kids, you know? And so even just that sense of like, okay, just that help that the community can provide. And for a lot of our underrepresented families, particularly families of color, immigrant families, just kind of the sense of overwhelm when it came to thinking about college, planning for the future, just not really even knowing where to start, just knowing that this could be kind of a foot in the door, a way to start planning, a way to start learning, I think was really exciting to see.
Some of the things that surprised me in talking with community members is not only did they think that the program was a good idea, they wanted to know when it could start. So there was already anticipation, eagerness, enthusiasm. Another thing that I heard from families is when we started sharing that there could potentially be incentives for enhancing the child savings account, people were imaginative and just already noted and what they dreamed out could be an incentive. Hearing the enthusiasm and eagerness for incentives reminded me of the importance of having a robust staffing for such end, which reminded me of the initiative in St. Paul and their consistent, persistent, readily available engagement with community members. I know the representatives take the capital seals that we want this to be more than an administrative initiative, that it's about engaging families, encouraging not only financial literacies, but imagining a different future. So just in closing, it's a small investment with a big impact.
So the question is, what's been most surprising? Like what's shocking? And there's a few things about just statewide policy that's in there about how you can actually engage people in different ways, and it's really surprising on how you can track certain people based on birth records and their marital status. So that would be a little surprising. So you can learn more about that if you want to ask me questions about that. But the other piece in St. Cloud and in central Minnesota, what for me that was surprising was when I proposed this opportunity for us to apply for this grant to do this community investment process and investigation, was how quickly folks were ready to sign up. All three higher education institutions in our area, St. John, St. Ben, St. Cloud State University, and St. Cloud Technical Community College, signed on like that. They were ready to go. All three school districts that are in our area, St. Cloud Area School District, Sauk Rapids Rice School District, and the Sartell St. Stephen's School District. And we defined a little bit smaller and really hope to branch out. We had representatives from both parties, Democratic and Republican, sign on to this opportunity, as well as senators, and people suggesting other people to get involved as well. Like, oh, well, I know this person's an expert. You should get them involved. CentraCare, our Initiative Foundation, our Morgan Family Foundation, our Central Minnesota Community Foundation, our libraries, our Greater St. Cloud Development Corporation, our city. So all of these folks were ready and willing to take on this opportunity to say, we need this here in St. Cloud in central Minnesota. And so that was really surprising to me, not because I didn't think anybody wanted to do it, but because they were willing to put some skin in the game and get involved to make it better for our kids and families across the state of Minnesota.
And I kind of what Amy said, but also just the eagerness, having subcommittees and those folks that step up and are consistently showing up for those meetings to help plan. What does that incentive part of this program look like? What would the fundraising raise like? How would we develop this with our community partners so that they can have some skin in the game as well? It's just, as Amy said, the excitement and the eagerness has just been incredible for us in central Minnesota.
And I would say for myself, something that was most surprising to me, really came out to our data. So my background is in data collection and analysis. And when we talked to parents of elementary aged kids, and about 43% said they had already talked to their kids about saving for post-secondary, which to me is a very high percentage, especially when you're talking to third, fourth, fifth graders. By high school, of course, 95% of the students were saying, yeah, I would talk to my parents about how we would save for post-secondary. But then when they surveyed the seniors, only 10% actually had a dedicated savings vehicle for post-secondary. And so to me, that was really surprising. There's a lot of conversation within families, and that conversation is happening very early. But not a lot of students actually do have a dedicated savings account or 5 or 29 or any sort of savings vehicle. So it's that I jumped out.
I love it. I hear the theme that young people are thinking about their future. I love that so many of our partners, when hearing about this, are excited to jump in, put some skin in the game, and really say, like, I'd like to be a part of it. Rachel, you talked about how many families are saying, I just can't wait for this to happen. Like, we're seeing this amazing work that's happening in St. Paul. When can it come here to our community? And like, we're all here today for this conversation because we all want to see the young people in our community succeed. And we see community children's savings accounts as an incredible tool to making that happen. And Mayor Carter talked about some of the amazing things that are already happening in St. Paul, the opportunity for young people to really see themselves going on into college. And just thinking about the future, where do you see as maybe the greatest opportunity, or what's next? What's the next thing that you're really seeing, or what are your next steps, or what is the community thinking is next steps?
In Northwest Hennepin, for the Northwest Family Resource Collaborative, we represent families or provide services for families in Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, Champlain, Dayton, Rogers, Corcoran, Maple Grove. So a wide spectrum of communities and with broad and varied needs. Our community members, when we did a community engagement series a couple of years back, indicated that more family stability, more financial stability is wanted. So the impact that this initiative would have would be tremendous. That families who want and need family stability, financial literacy, would have an avenue, a vehicle for it. Of course, $50 is a start, right? It's a seed to grow that imagination in a better future. And we're really interested in providing that for families who can have, so that they have a future orientation.
Well, thinking about like the opportunities coming next, we're really excited to do the report to the legislature, collaborating with everyone here on this panel. And Thaddeus, I said I was going to recognize him. Thaddeus wrote this grant for Hennepin County. Please give him a hand. He wrote this grant in 2 weeks last year over the holidays, which, as many of you know, that's a really big lift. And so just right now, reporting to the legislature is one thing, but also reporting back to the community of what we've heard from them. I will always say this as a community engagement professional, that when you get feedback from the community, engage the community, it's so important to answer back and say, hey, this is what we heard. This is what we think is important to the community. So we're also going to be reporting back to everyone we've engaged and hoping that this comes to fruition at the state. But if not, finding ways that in Hennepin County, we can get the right partners at the table to still make it happen for families. And like Rachel said, Hennepin County is huge, and from rural, suburban, urban, it will need to look different for each community. And so really designing that in innovative ways in partnership with the community, I think, is really important.
So the question is, what are next steps, or what's the impact? Because I see both. I just see the question there, and then I heard what you asked, which was, what are next steps?
Impact or
both?
opportunity?
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm following directions. I'm a former elementary teacher, so you listen, you respond, you follow directions. So what's next for us is really living into what we've been able to hear from our communities and live into that passion. Our CEO at United Way of Central Minnesota is committed in some way, shape, or form to making this possible in our area. So if we get state funding, that would be phenomenal and icing on the cake, as we continue to look at that path. But we're dedicated in our community because of what we've heard, because of what we've learned, because of what we've seen, and because we want to feed into the fact that we want Minnesota to be the best place for kids and families to live. And that's something that our governor has set forth, but we need to do our part to help live into that. And, what the state of Minnesota has done to build the North Star Promise, for example, right? This is a great complement to, now they're changing the hearts and minds of kids. Because as Mayor Carter talked about, just $1 in that savings account. It's not necessarily about the amount of money that's in that account, but it's about those conversations that can happen. It's about changing the hearts and minds of people to believe that post-secondary education and options are for them. Now, I don't know if you've seen or watched The Office. And if you know the episode Scott's Tots, it's a really disturbing episode when you get right down to it. But in that episode, he promised a bunch of third graders that he would pay for their college education. And all of those kids went on to graduate from high school. Now, he then had to tell them he didn't have money for them and gave them like computer batteries. But the reality of that sense of belief in themselves and knowing that there's something after high school for me helped all of those kids in this fictional TV show. We know that, and we see in the data, kids are 4 times more likely to go on to graduate from high school and 3 times more likely, I might have those numbers wrong, to graduate from college by having these kinds of programs set up. Why would we not do that for $50 a kid? Mm-hmm. How can we pass the buck? We know if we invest early, that's important in the financial world. We know even more that it's important to invest early in our kids and people to get a great return on investment. So that's what's next for us. Is we're excited, we're inspired as a community. We're going to go out and ask and find those dollars wherever they are, because we want to shift hearts and minds and systems to really invest in what we know is best for our community and workforce development.
In Rice County, there's a lot of excitement from organizations that work with youth and families about milestones and that continuing investment. And as families engage with their organizations, how can they continue to invest in their children's future? And so the timing of everything has been really nice with my coalition. We had our coalition meeting yesterday, actually, and I was able to share our blueprint, kind of where the design is sitting at, walk through next steps with the legislative session. And they jumped right into planning for, well, what does public-private partnership look like and who are the partners? And so they've started that brainstorming, they've started that activity, and then our next coalition meeting is in late March, which also ties in very nicely, hopefully, with legislative session, and be able to move into on the ground, what does that look like for us? And so to me, that's what's really exciting is how quickly our planning partners have moved from dreaming about it, thinking about it, to, okay, great, how do we get this done? So that's what's next for us.
I love that. And I would love to encourage anybody who, if you've been thinking about questions you have for our panelists, we have maybe a minute or two to answer any questions. What's that? We have more time than that. Great. I love more time. So I know that this work is work that we are all doing. So we have some amazing panelists here who are really talking about the work that they're doing specifically, but we know that you are all in partnership with us in doing this work in our communities. And so we want to both acknowledge not only our amazing panelists, and please help me give them a round of applause for coming up here and typing, but we also fully acknowledge how important it is for all of you in this room to be partners with us in this work. And so would love to ask any of you if you have any questions of our panelists, maybe something you've heard that piqued your curiosity, something that you'd like to know more about where you could get engaged. Would love to take a minute or two to answer any questions that you might have of the panelists. And then we've got some time for discussions where hopefully we can connect with each other and talk about next steps and what's maybe inspiring us the most today. Any questions? Yes, Renee.
So I think I got this answer earlier, but I'll take it again and say that I asked it though. Many, is it many kids? And career in college farm. And what go? Are they interchangeable?
I can answer that, yes. So the Mini Kids Act was proposed by Representative Kutitsa Watun, who was here, proposed during the 2023 legislative session. When it did not pass, Youth Prize, Aaron, can you raise your hand now? I recognized you earlier. Aaron and the team at Youth Prize, and many thanks to Marcus, they lobbied to have $500,000 in planning grants, even though the bill did not pass. So they were the Mini Kids Planning and Design grants that were to go to 4 communities: a large urban, Hennepin County, small urban, St. Cloud, and rural, Northfield, and also a tribal community, which I believe is still in process and coming together soon. So Career and College Bound Hennepin is what we chose to call the Hennepin County Grant Initiative to engage the community. So again, the collaboration to write that grant was between Rachel, Thaddeus, and Steve, and they've done amazing work. And then the other grants have gone to the greater St. Cloud area and Northfield. Yeah. And we're hoping all of this feedback will then inform what Representative Kotisa Watun brings to the legislature in the session early next year, and really helps to shape what gets handed down. We don't know.
That's a great question.
Thanks for the question.
Any other questions?
Excuse me. There's one from the chat.
Oh, lovely.
No, that was me. They on the chat.
Thank you, Thaddeus.
Wait, so was there a question, Thaddeus? Or yes?
Brittany, what would be your advice as to a parent who's excited about this option in Minnesota, and what we can do in our communities to further the word, to excite other parents, anything like that? What can I?
Also, before we answer, just recognition for Carrie here from Thrive Culture Minnesota, who has done a lot of tabling and outreach for us for Career and College Bound Hennepin. Thank you to Carrie. Yeah.
What I would say as a parent, obviously we can do things for our own children. And so that's a simple step that hopefully you think about. My kids are going to be okay, I believe, one way or the other. I'm having these conversations with them all the time. So even thinking like small or locally, there's some places where it's just school districts who are doing something like this. Or thinking about, we give college scholarships when kids graduate, and you give $1,000. Couldn't we shift some of those dollars and think about, gosh, $1,000, okay, if you divide that by 50, okay, it's, 20 kids or 200 kids, 200 kids, right? So we could get 200 kids $50 savings account in my school district, in my town, in my preschool program, whatever it might be. If you just think about it in a small, innovative way, to then build it to something bigger. And you can find a financial institution who would be interested in helping out with something like that, really locally and grassroots. So that would be a suggestion of like, what can you do to make a difference? And then, of course, advocate, call your legislators, all of those wonderful things as well.
I would echo that sentiment. Sit down and do a little bit of math. Use a kindergarten class as your basis. We were really surprised when we sat down and we were like, oh, it'd be $20,000 per kindergarten class. Like that for the whole county. We are a rural county, like we're the rural representative. But when you go to a potential funder, like that's like a reasonable amount for a lot of funders to consider. And then it's, Mayor was talking about it earlier, sponsorship opportunities. So you could sponsor the class of, I don't know what class we're on right now. I don't want to do math. 2036 or whomever it is right now. But that's something that's very tangible and kind of like right sized for a lot of folks to approach.
So great question. And I would also say that anybody who's here today will be getting more information from us about sort of next steps. I believe we'll be able to send out some either QR codes or links that you can continue to share with people in your network.
They should be in the center of your tables. If you'd like more information about ongoing Mini Kids efforts, you can scan that QR code there.
And I imagine we'll probably send that out after this meeting so you can send it on to your networks as well to stay connected to this work so we can get more and more people to continue building this movement to really make the case for this across the state. Excited to see what happens next. And you are all part of the process. You are all part of the solution to making this happen for our community. With that, I want to say thank you to our panelists. Could we give a big hand for our panelists one more time? And what we'd like to do next is take a few minutes to really engage you, to really tap into the expertise in this room by having some conversations at the tables. So for the wonderful folks who are helping us with the IT, if you could move to the discussion slide. There's a slide that talks about discussion questions. And what we'd like you to do at the tables is just, one, if you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself to to people around you, people next to you, please take a moment to just introduce yourself. But then we would love for you to look at these questions and see if there's one of them that resonates for you, that really, because of this conversation or because of what you know about children's savings accounts, or just the opportunity to do different, to be better in our communities with our young people, where do you see the opportunity that you're getting most excited about? Would love for you to have a conversation at your table around that for a few minutes. For the panelists, I believe that we're going to spread ourselves out around the room. Would love to hear what conversations are coming up and what you're saying. This is also part of our community feedback process to hear more from you all. We'll give that maybe 5-10 minutes. So think about these questions, have some conversations. We have some recorders who are going to come around the room and maybe capture some of the brilliance that you're all talking to, and then we'll wrap up the event. Thank you so much. I can yell. Okay, so we're going to be closing up now. I'm going to use my teacher voice. I want to thank you all for taking the time to connect with each other, to get to build some connections. As I mentioned before, at the United Way, one of the things we say all the time is we believe in change makers, and we believe we are all change makers, and it takes all of us to solve those problems that no one of us can solve alone. So we're so thrilled to be here today with you all and to have these conversations around how do we work together, how do we support each other, and how do we move this work forward. I think you, like all of us, or everyone that I've talked to today, is inspired about the potential of children's savings accounts and really thinking about, like, what can I do? What can we do to make this happen? So I love that energy. I love thinking about what comes next and how do we all become a part of that process. Wanted to make sure to ask if there's anybody who got something really exciting. So I know I'm excited. I'm coming out of this feeling really pumped, really excited about what comes next. Maybe what was one of the things that came out of your conversation at the tables that you'd like to just share with others? Maybe something that continues to inspire us in the room. So I see a few people who are maybe making eye contact. Yes, Kira.
Test. Thank you. So at our table, we talked a lot about just the generational impact and just the paradigm shift that happens with families around college savings accounts. So it eliminates a barrier and a financial burden and another responsibility for families that, may already be under financial duress of some sort. And it also educates families about investing and the importance of savings, and being able to see that and track that in real time over the years is tremendous.
And I'll shout out the great work that NAS is doing already around children's savings accounts. One of the things that really came clear to us is how many people are already doing work to support this type of vision in community. So if you haven't already seen the great work that NAS is doing, I would certainly say learn more, hear more about what they're doing here in St. Paul or here in Minneapolis. And think about the ways that not only can we create things that we've maybe not seen in our own communities, but how do we tie into great work that's already happening, where we can learn from and continue to fuel the great work happening in other organizations and other communities. Melody, do you have another wonderful speaker? Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to kind of build on that, because our conversation was also kind of around that. I'm really excited because, as an immigrant, a child who come from an immigrant household, low-income household, college was always important. But again, my parents could not afford to, save up or pay for college. So then I ended up with student loan debt, which is, another thing that can happen with families where if parents have student loan debt, they're unable to contribute to their kids' student tuition. And then, the cycle continues, right? So they're going to debt, and that could lead to kids dropping out of school or just not going at all because of the expense. And I think this really gives families the opportunity to empower families to continue to talk about college with their children, but also having a cushion that families can use to get their kids in college. I think that's, something that's very important. I don't know if I mentioned, but Natletha from the Children's Defense Fund. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we've got one more speaker in the back, and then we'll close out after that.
Hi, I'm Latarian from Korean Organization of Minnesota. And one of the things that we kind of talked about is the opportunity and options that this gives to families. And it's really important that being able to touch families at these early components and early age and give them access to this, that we have enough time over those time to make those touch points gradually and continue educating them for financial literacy for their entire family and the children as they grow. And that for me equals, exposure equals expansion. So we have time to expand their mind over time. And I think that's just a great opportunity for this savings program.
I love that. And I totally agree. And I'm just, again, so excited to be here today. So excited to be part of these conversations. So excited to see about the connections being made, the next steps that we're planning already. I wanted to give a personal shout out to Melody, who is in the back holding the microphone. Melody made this event happen, brought all of us together. So thank you so much for doing that. And she and many others will be sending more information out to you about sort of next steps and how you can stay engaged in this work. So thank you so much for being here today. We have the room for a while, so if you want to stay and continue having those conversations, you're more than welcome to. But we also acknowledge the fact that it's 11 o'clock and you probably have other things on your calendar today. So thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to see what we all do next.